China indeed has already reacted to this last Thursday's meeting, and they have said that this is interference in China's internal affairs in that sense. But I think it goes back to the almost 1 year long now, this repeated intrusions in the airspace of Taiwan that Chinese fighter jets have been doing, bringing almost the air defense of Taiwan to a certain fatigue and frustration. And in that sense, this is the response. And we have seen Japan, one after another, showcasing that they have commitment along with the United States. And now they want to bring it together, United States and Japan, and jointly making a commitment in a trilateral format. So you saw that when Prime Minister Suga was in White House on 16th of April, in the joint statement, Prime Minister Suga particularly made sure this was included, that security of Taiwan is the shared concern. At the same time, there you had Defense Minister, I think he's younger brother of Shinzo Abe, Kishinobu. He's again in April underlined it, but remember, even in 2016, when he was junior foreign minister, he had said that such a trilateral is required. So fundamentally, increasing consciousness of Taiwan coming under certain sort of increasing stress because of repeated intervention in airspace by China, and of course, a whole lot of use of social media and other things. Speeches, for example, the recent speech of Xi Jinping in Fujian thanked people from Taiwan. Also mentioned that cross-strait development has to be shared and brought together. So these kind of repeated insinuations from the highest level in China, and of course Air Force showcasing that power which Taiwan defines as its air defense identification zone, which again comes all the way to the coast of mainland China because of those two little islands that Taiwan owns very close to China's mainland. So this constant tension building in the Taiwan Straits is where I think this consciousness of Japan, even in their annual defense review this year, for the first time, I think, since 1969, they have brought it in writing, in the print, that the security of Taiwan is something that is required for the regional security in general. So we are noticing here Japan being on the lead, and it's interesting to see Prime Minister Suga also taking initiatives. Of course, this meeting we saw the former Prime Minister, now member of Parliament, Shinzo Abe, talking about Taiwan being significant. And he's always held this view that standing up to China would require United States and Japan working together. And now they're trying to put that in a trilateral format. The Taiwan Relations Act, of course, very clearly defines in 1979 that United States will come up to the defense of Taiwan in case any direct or indirect threat to the security of Taiwan is there. So some of these things are being revived, but I think the center of action now is Tokyo, and it is Prime Minister Suga who, along with his other colleagues, including Deputy Prime Minister Taro Aso, for example, are highlighting how they want to take a lead in turning that into a trilateral commitment. And that's why I think you made a very interesting comparison with Quad.
Okay. To Professor Swaran Singh, where do you see this story headed now? I have to take a break after that.
I think very clearly the very senior leaders in Japan are spearheading this reformulation. And what pinches China is the comparison they are making, that they do not want to see Taiwan becoming another Hong Kong. And then it comes to Okinawa, and they are sort of bringing in United States, saying that after Hong Kong it will be Taiwan and then Okinawa. So that the very senior level leaders, Taro Aso, Shinzo himself, Prime Minister Suga, then of course Kishinobu, senior leaders are intervening one after another and bringing this at a regional level. And that clearly, is pinching China enormously and is projecting the whole issue of Taiwan in a very different light. Of course, United States knows that China will not directly attack Taiwan because that's too costly. And United States, of course, also will be lured into this reformulation because Taiwan, if not matching up to entire China's defense modernization, is definitely matching up with what is deployed on the east coast of next to Fujian area, etc. So that also means that Taiwan will be increasingly dependent on purchasing weapons from the United States. So this kind of reformulation, orchestration at the regional level, connecting Hong Kong, Taiwan, and of course Okinawa, is making it more complex. And given the commercial interests of the United States, China knows that they will be willing to accept that reformulation by senior Japanese leaders. So it's a kind of a reformulation in which you see members of United States Parliament, Congress, and and Japanese Diet and Taiwan Parliament are now coming together. So it's an initiative which is reformulating what is the reality on the ground in a very different fashion, bringing in legislators, which means it's institutionalized kind of a coming together of these three nations. So China has to really be very careful. And China has already kind of rubbed several feathers of other countries given the pandemic situation. So this could be something which could also bear upon the Beijing goodwill around the world. So I suppose the kind of responses that we are hearing from Beijing are really counterproductive. They're not going to help China.
Okay.